Yeah. Hi,
Oh, hi.
Rodrigo. Good morning.
Good morning. There is a
Oh, hello.
there is
Beautiful
a art
dog.
on the dog.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So how are you? It's really, let me just, hold on. Let me just turn off the comments. I don't know how to do that. So I can see you better. So it's really early with you. Is it 7 in the morning?
Yeah. I get up usually around 6, and I have to take it out, and I like reading in the morning. So I in the mornings is usually the time where I have for myself between 6 and 8 is where no
Nice.
one bother me. So and then I have to teach. Usually around 6:30 I get up, and then I go to the office
Okay.
and I and I start doing stuff. But I at 8 usually have to teach, and that goes until noontime.
So how is the situation in LA? Your exhibition at Cloudeman got shut down just a few days after the opening, but you're teaching at UCLA. You're an assistant professor. So are you
Yeah,
still teaching online
yeah,
or how does it work?
yeah. Most of the faculty is teaching online, and we yeah, it's unfortunate because actually um, two. I mean, it's a small department. I teach in the photography department, and it's only me and Catherine Opie, and she also has a show right now at the in LA, and both shows basically open the same week. And after a week, we just they're like this ghost of this rumor, which in contemporary art is not that bad. Remember, it's in much art, much contemporary art is better as a rumor than as a real thing. So I
Well,
think if the show live forever in
in the minds,
in the
in the
mind or like
spirits.
yeah, I think that it's interesting to have a show. I pass by the gallery because the grad studios where I teach the master students at UCLA is in the corner of the by the gallery. So I pass by a lot. So every day I know that there is a show there, and every gallery. I mean, it's interesting to think. Every gallery, every little place have the same for you.
Hmm.
Like
It's
people
very
know
sad.
an artist really want to talk about their work like in some way, it's fucked up for you because there is no customers, there is no sales, right? There is an economic crisis, but artists really just want to have a conversation about their work, so it's
Well,
just
you
like
want to take, people around your show.
yeah.
Um, And yeah, I really wanted to talk with you about or explain your life story because I think it's very important to also understand your practice. I mean, you've kind of lived the American dream a little bit. You've grown up in Chile. You studied art history and photography in Chile. Oh, wait, did I lose you? And then you decided to live
Yeah,
in
no,
America.
no, I'm here.
So you decided to live in America and you flew to Canada, you crossed the border, you got caught the first time, they sent you back, and you did it, which was very dangerous, again the same night, and you made it into the US. And then from there on, I think you studied art history at Evergreen University, and
I
then
studied philosophy
Seattle.
there. Yeah, I
Yeah.
studied philosophy at Evergreen, but like I mean, it's interesting because I mean, it is kind of like I mean, and that is something to make work about in some ways. Like I am an example of what you could consider the American dream, but it's like it's
Hard
really
work.
fucked up. It's really fucked up that like the American dream have to be like that, right? It's like
I know.
it is not so that's why I think making art about kind of the all the people that don't get to like I mean, but because we all have a set of interests and certain things that American culture as kind of like cultural and economic hegemonic power, right? To like
Mm.
set the conditions for everybody else to like. So like in some way, because I have studied in Chile and I have like I have a set of interests that align with that allow me to be successful here, right? So like I like
I know it's
philo.
crazy to think that you actually had to walk over the border to be able to make it into the US. I mean,
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's the thing. It's like living in Canada wasn't that much easy either. It was just yesterday I was talking about like how broke I was there and how broke I was. So like being broke for the first like 5 years of your life and just really like kind of like living at the margins and like, you know, it's staying in shelters and just like living with friends. So just like working construction didn't make it. But in some way, because when you like grow up in Chile, there is like, you know, globalization have done that the education in Latin America is pretty much, it's very similar to the education in USA, right? It's like if you read some Baudrillard, if you read some like Baudelaire, if you read some like
Yeah.
some German philosopher, then you are basically a Western educated person. So when I moved here, it wasn't that it was actually, I think, could have been easier to get into the art than if I could have gone to Europe in some way, right? Or like if I could have gone to like or living in the under the Spanish conditions or anything. So, so yeah, moving here for the first teach me a lot about like kind of discipline about work, right? And I think like and I think it's and kind of being smart about the work or where you put your energy, right? So like because I didn't have a lot of time and a lot of money to waste because every hour of my life was kind of like
Was
value, you know, for very little, like working $10 an hour doing construction, no, it's right. So like I need to work certain amount of hours to pay rent, and and then became kind of like a really similar mind process when I was like when I'm working in the studio. It becomes like kind of like trying to be the most efficient, but also like think about art as like a job, something that you just go and do it for a certain amount of hours and the things that you didn't get to do during those hours, then you just go home and like eat dinner and try to be
and
happy, you know?
rest.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of institutions were very important in terms of your work and career. I mean, Seattle was, you've spent a lot of time in Seattle. You had a mentor there, which helped you with a lot of film projects, right?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I had a lot of, you know, in some way, because I lived in Olympia, Washington, which is just a small town an hour south of Seattle, and there where I studied philosophy, where I met a lot of artists, and it was a really great place to like kind of become an American, right? Because it's like very experimental. It's kind of like the birthplace for a lot of feminist punk bands and a lot of artists that I really like, and when a lot of musicians. So when I felt like I had like, you know, I have experimented enough, I have shot a lot of videos, and I have was kind of like play with a lot of bands and it's hanging out, and you know, like I I moved to Seattle to kind of be more efficient and like kind of move to like do my masters and start like just making real art, right? But also it's a small town with not a really big or good contemporary art scene, so it wouldn't be hard to get shows too. So it was very strategic. If I could have moved to New York or LA, I could have been completely fucked because my work when I was in grad school sucks, and like and I wasn't. I mean, it wasn't really ugly. It was just like very underdeveloped, and the ideas were not very sophisticated. So I think having those like 2 or 3 years to just experiment and actually have shows and like and have to talk to people about my ideas in the public sphere really helped me. So and because of that, I think people like older artists, like, you know, that that I got a lot of mentorship in LA by I mean in Seattle by a lot of artists, you know, like so like I was it really helped me because I was like I just finished a degree in philosophy, so I really didn't know how to make art, right? Like and all this, it was because I always thought that like
But
artists.
when was that? Because 2013, so it couldn't, you know, it wasn't probably that bad as you described it just now, because you were chosen 2013 to go to Shawinigan, which is one
Yeah,
of the oldest and most respected residencies in the US. It's in
I
Maine,
got
and
really
it's a
lucky. I got really lucky. I mean, it's kind of
I don't.
crazy because like, you know, like I finished. I mean, I started kind of making art around 2010 when I was doing my undergrad, and then I decided to apply to grad school with this portfolio I have with all these kind of crazy videos I was making based on philosophical texts. And so like so when I got to school, I was experimenting a lot and trying a lot of stuff. So I grabbed all this portfolio of experimentation. Actually, you know, when you go to Skowhegan the first week, they ask you to present the work that you apply. And by the time it's been like 6 months or, you know, or a year, so you forgot what you apply with. So when you start looking at your portfolio and talking about your application, and like basically, I think everybody has the same feeling where like I can't believe that they let me in. Like, it's just like, it's kind of crazy how bad it was, right? But
I
like,
think you're really tough on yourself, though.
but this, I mean, I think like these people has a, like, they have a skill. Like, I mean, everybody
Yeah,
that
but
look
they
at
saw your
them,
potential, maybe. I mean, there are a lot
yeah,
of,
I mean, I'm very grateful because I think all these, the people that look at the portfolios as Cohegan in a lot of residencies, including me now that I'm in the position to look at portfolios for people coming to grad school,
mm,
I'm searching for that. You know, I don't want somebody that is ready to show in galleries or museums. I want somebody that really will
that
like,
you can develop.
yeah, they want to develop and also want to be appreciative of the opportunity. So when you go to Skowhegan, everybody work really hard, everybody hang out, everybody make best friends with each other. So it forms a really strong community because of that.
Like Avery Singer was with you and Sandra Perry was with you at Shawinigan that year.
We had like a great group. I mean, right after we were there, my friend Lavar Monroe was in the Venice
Mm.
Biennial. You know, Harold Mendes, this my ex-roommate, and you know, he was my
Wow.
roommate at Cohegan. Then we did the core program together in Houston, and then we lived together when we moved to LA. He was in the last he was in the Whitney Biennial, and then he was in the MoMA show from the Photo Now show. So
Okay.
we're very lucky that I mean, you get together with all these people, and my mind, you know, explodes because like I had never, as I said, so I was in Seattle, like thinking that those artists were really famous, like the people in Seattle, and like, you know, so like then you go to Skopje and then you're like, oh, these people are really famous. Let me hang out with you guys for a second. You know, so like,
Yeah, but
and then
most of
you
the artists at that point, they're not really famous yet. I mean,
no, but
Avery
like
Singer wasn't that famous
no, a lot.
2013.
No, a lot of people are like just out of school, so like I think they have the thing that um, they are very kind of well versed on the language of art, and something
Mm.
I didn't have. Right, like some people speak contemporary artists, contemporary art, and other people don't, and that becomes frustrating when you are in small towns because a lot of the time you spend a lot of time developing skills. And then you realize when you enter this kind of like global conversation, you realize there is some language that you don't have, you know, that you were not taught because you are poor, because you're in a small town, because you are like, you know, so like, so then you start
That's
develop, you're
interesting.
like, then you just like, you learn this kind of like way of speak and the way of like thinking, right? That is like, is different than the kind of conversations that you have with your friends and there's some people, yeah, but maybe if you go to like Cooper Union as undergrad and then you go to Columbia or Yale as a grad, maybe you have had that language the whole time, right? But if you went to like a small art institute in Denver, Colorado, and then you moved to Seattle to do grad school,
Yeah, you don't have the
like
dialogue.
what is, yeah, and what is the generation? And you see it, I mean, even in like, even in the generation of like, you know, this in the abstract expressionist generation, is they all were friends with each other and lovers with each other, right? You can follow like Rauschenberg to like Jasper Jones to like John Cage. It's a very tight circle. It's basically six people that made contemporary art in the 60s, right? So
Mm.
like you like realize that is that, and the language that you have with your friends is your own dialect in some way. So like
Yeah.
go to residencies like this, it really helps you to develop kind of like that report and that dialect. But it is very like unfair. Mostly, I mean, it's unfair when mostly when you don't grow up here and you don't go to school here, and then you just don't have money to like live in New York or LA, right? It's like what happened with all the talented, smart people that they are not able to afford those kind of situations, right? It is a very interesting paradigm.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see your house.
That
Since we cannot
I
go to the studio,
want.
the whole studio, I've been to your studio complex, which is amazing. There's so
Yeah,
many, it's one big building with many artist studios, but they've shut it down, right? Like the
yeah. There
complete
is
building has been,
no. Yeah, because it's like a factory, so there is no. There's a security guard, and there is like you know, there is people that work at the fly elevator, so like those people cannot work. So basically, actually, yesterday there was a meeting about like trying to get us money back or the rent or like stuff like that. So I'm
yeah,
gonna
you
give you
shouldn't
like
really be
a
paying rent if you cannot
no.
enter.
Yeah, so I mean, mostly because there is factories. There is actually like people making t-shirts and pants and stuff like that. So I wanna just give you like a little tour. I mean, the most important part is like I work a lot here too because I was gonna give you a tour by series, but There's Winona. There's my
Do you choose your dogs after your paintings
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah,
photographs?
yeah, for sure.
She fits so well.
I don't wanna, I don't want any confusion. Who is the owner? Who is the owner of the dog? But
I think
like
that's a new
so,
concept
yeah.
for collectors. Choose your dog after the artworks.
I thought it was the couch, but I guess like the dogs are the new couch. Like then, so like this is a
Should we start
small.
with an earlier series like Animata or Hedonic
I
Reversal? I'll go and
like I don't know if I have an Hedonic reversal. He actually was looking when you told me earlier. The earliest piece that you can see is like is this one. This is actually from the first CD I made for my first solo show in Seattle in 2013. So and then I keep making this CD, The Goalkeeper. But what is interesting, I mean, the thing you were talking about, me coming here and moving to the country, is like the American dream to me is like made out of so many bureaucratic procedures, right? So like in this way, I made this like kind of studio construction sites, and these landscapes. So the idea of freedom just come from like a bunch of like photocopies, printouts, right? So like there's one big photocopy that gets set there. So to me, a lot of the problems with immigration and a lot of the, is like there is certain like also another thing about language is like if you can manipulate institutions, if you know how to work with the language of bureaucracy, then you can usually lawyers, and then you need money to pay. The summer I was saving money to pay for the lawyer. I was working construction like probably 90 hours a week. And then I was working in construction for 90 hours a week, and that's like for a month and a half straight. So I was like really skinny and really tired, but I was like, needed to save like $5,000 to pay the lawyer, which is like now it's kind of crazy because like you like sell a piece and then you could pay, but like at that time was like 4 months of straight really hard work.
Straight working in construction.
So like I was doing a lot of this kind of work and using the spaces that I had.
So this is from when? That's from like
2013. 13, yeah. So and slowly I started moving into like making more images. I mean, even since I was a kid, I've been really interested in the labor unions and the idea of work in general, because my dad was a labor union organizer. So since I was a kid, I heard about like the syndicates and like the unions and fights with the government and during when I was a kid growing up in dictatorship, there were a lot of unions that they were persecuted and a lot of workers that needed to build a lot of like safety nets through unionizing. So this is a piece I did at Bemis, I think in 2014 or 15, and actually after this, I mean, I developed a relationship with this organization. It's a wonderful art residency in a wonderful art residency in Omaha, Nebraska, and so like, and now I'm part of the board of directors. So like and it's like 30 years old. Like they make really good work with shows but yeah, I made this piece there. And because I've been working with a lot of and now I'm proposing a similar work for like working with the archives of the labor unions.
I love this work. So good.
So I and I think the last show I did in LA.
Did Prol come after this series?
Yeah. So like at the same time I was making all the work about labor unions at the same time. Basically, I made a series of photos, and I made the flags and paintings about from Prol. I made a video Prol in this space. Actually, the warehouse where they are, where there's a kitchen, there's a new piece.
I love your house.
Oh, thank you. Yes, like I have all my philosophy books, all my art, like my photo theory books, and my photography books, my painting books.
Nice.
and
In the
some
back,
cinema.
I'm showing a work of, hold on, of, but you can't really see, of
Yeah,
Animata. So I think also to explain how your works have been constructed is really interesting. They're all photographed analog, and they're basically layers and layers of photographs. So they're really also very constructed in a way. Also the hedonic
yeah,
reversal, let me see. No. Yeah, that is part of hedonic reversal,
yeah.
which is the
So
series before um, American Type, which you see below.
yeah, and you know, Hedonic Reversal like really was important to me because it was my first museum show, and in some way the first time I started working so abstractly. And you know, like I think also my together with my first museum show, I was really thinking about like how each space and each institution is part of the city and the
Mm.
community around this institution. So to me, making a show thinking about Seattle, and thinking about where these ruins or where these ideas of ruin like goes after they're done, after they're gone, right? So to me, it was very important to like make a very um, like a show that could embody the feelings of Seattle at the same time. And in some way, I started working like that for like a long time. Like every show I do is like I go to the cities, and I just like kind of like hang out for a little bit, and or like I do a little research, and then I condition the installation, kind of thinking about what the city history is, you know, so which is exhausting. I mean, in 2017, I did 25 shows, and it was like and I was doing a lot of these site-specific shows where I was going to the cities and improvising something, and it's fun, and you know, it's kind of like a kid going to the store and have to buy enough stuff to build a fort, but it's just like it's just kind of tired, like spending all your life in the library and in the hardware store. It's the only two places I ever go. So then you know, in 2017, I made this piece too, which is the Barricade series, and then you know, it's based on a book of poems by Pablo Neruda. You know, this is actually the only probably series I have never shown in Vienna,
No,
and it's
we've
a
never shown this series.
and
We've
it's
started
with the
with
Hedonic Reversal.
Animata and hedonic reversal, yeah, and
Yeah,
with
but
the films.
yeah, so you know, like I mean, the next I think next show I'm doing there in by the fall is it is my best one too. Like I'm really proud of the show I did in at Cloudeman right now, but you know, sadly for this event, but you know, in some way it shows you a lot
We'll
of
make it
like,
happen in Vienna.
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, the prints are very beautiful. I will show you one now, but you know, this body work came from a residency I was doing in also Lightworks, very great residency, and in um, in Syracuse, New York. Right. So when I finished this series that I was making about this was just 2016, just when Trump was elected. And I was thinking a lot about protests and a lot of the language of protest that people in America don't have in relationship with like Latin America, or like where everybody goes. I mean, if you follow the news, Chile is just burning for the
Yeah,
last 6 months
yeah.
straight. So this series was together with this portraits that they were masks that they were announced as like a, you know, adequate tool for like Corona times. I have
I
my
want one of
fashion
these
my
works in Vienna. You know, I've never seen them live.
they're
You've
very
never sent
beautiful.
me
Look
copies
at
of
the.
those.
I will bring some new work, but yeah, the quality of the film, and then and the I used this
So that these works were in relation to the protests as well, right,
yeah,
in
yeah,
Chile.
because people in Latin America make a lot of this um, mask when because you know the inside you can put cotton, and and then like you can put cotton, and then you use it, it helps you as to kind of filter the air, right? This is the newest work.
Yeah, I also have some images of how these works are done. I don't know if you can you see it?
Oh yeah, I can see them. So this is the photographers. You know, you can. It's one of the oldest process to make photos, for to like reproductivity of the image, right?
Can you
So
explain a bit how they are done? They're very labor intensive, right?
yeah, because I mean, I made, so just from the beginning, I made a lot of these shapes in concrete, right? So like you see, all these things
So they all
are
physically exist, right?
yeah, they are. These are concrete casted inside molds of styrofoam from trash, you know, from electronics. So these are like the boxes to like cheap bottles, wine bottles, right? So this is the inside of those like styrofoam packaging, right? So like everything on the walls are made out of the mold of a pegboard of you know, and there's, so it's all made out of concrete. So it's very, very heavy and not super big. I mean, also the thing about the tour, the scale is very um, um, open
Yep,
to interpretation. Like you don't feel the scale of the work, right? So this is another one,
they're incredible.
and so you can
Like,
see that.
can you tell us the printing process a bit?
Yeah, so like basically you go into the so as the picture you're showing, right? So like I make a negative with the with the film. I shoot film and I make the negative, and then I did partially three prints in five prints in Mexico City and three prints in Tampa, Florida, because they're very rare places that make this process where
Is it copper?
you yeah, so you like make a emulsion on a copper plate, right? Make a big negative and then transfer the image through UV light or like exposing this copper plate that is photosensitive now because you like use a lot of salt to like make the process, right? So once the image get transferred onto the copper plate, the plate get etched and you put a series of like 3 or 4 different acids that eats inside the copper, and then you put the grain with the agua tinta vat, and then uh, and then you start putting the ink, which is oil ink. So like the paper, when you put it wet, take all the water out and the
Is
ink get
that how you
removed.
do it? I don't know if you can see it, but you have to clean off
Yeah,
the
it's also
paper
very,
after.
you know, I love it because it's very physical. The way to like, you know, after a while become very painterly because you make one print and then if you need more details there, you just clean more
Clean more.
there,
Okay.
and then or like put more ink there and make and create kind of contrast slowly, right? So and you also, as you can see in the images that you're putting now, you can see the edge of the plate, so you know that there was a physical act, right? In the same way that the concrete was like in there, and you associate it with a weight. The plate has a weight on the paper, so
There's a
it's very,
beautiful detail here.
yeah, yeah. The grain is very organic because it's basically you put them in this bath where the dust falls onto the plate and then it gets burned. So like the dust is it doesn't follow in a very like um, programmatic way, right? It doesn't, it's not made by my machine. So there's parts that have a lot more grain or less grain, and it's very, very beautiful. So that's the print that like I'm showing you now, and yeah,
And then
it's
you've also done sculptures for your last show. I'm trying to
yeah, that's those
find.
is cool to. Oh, that's the secret. That's the making of. That's
Yeah,
supposed to
no,
be. I
that's a
mean,
making
that's
of. And
supposed
then,
to be between me and you.
sorry. Okay.
No, it's fine. Like I just no that
Okay.
well, you know, it's good that you show the last one because they are you know it's the clay is called Cassius clay. It's a brown clay that when it fires completely black. It's very chalky black. So I wanted to transmit that this kind of similar feeling to the of the photographs too. Um, and you know,
So
like
this
it's
black piece was brown before, and then you fire it, and then it
yeah,
gets this deep black.
they get with this black. You know, some of them crack a little bit, but also I put them. You have so the installation in shots, right? Like I had this. Holes on the wall on the floor, right? So like there's this,
Yeah, here you
so
can see it.
the image the sculptures were embedded in it. I really wanted to have this like make the viewer have this kind of bird's eye view perspective of the show, kind of like give a more photographic perspective, right? But also it's like, you know, the images are so direct and the camera is positioned in the same place that I like to kind of, you know, because a lot of time we make work and we don't really know what it means until way too late, right? So like I try
Mm.
to like condition certain aspects of the viewer. So in this case, at least I give you a vantage point that is very set for all the images, right?
But they seem like
So
graves in a way. Also,
yeah,
these
yeah. I
sculptures.
mean, they have kind of like um, a terrain that was found, or like, you know, some objects that they've been discovered, but at the same time they look like piece of machine that been buried. You know, they look like a Versailles View perspective of a city. They're very
Mm.
open to interpretations, and I really, I think that as my career changes a little bit, I feel more comfortable not knowing as much, and like not being as clear as like as the statements I want to make, because like I think like I know what I make them, but also it's like I know there is a lot of more possibilities that escape kind of my the consciousness of the work. So
Yeah, I really like them. I hope we can show them in Vienna as well in November.
yeah, the ceramics. I hope we can figure out a way to like they're very fragile. So make them but you know like and also I could make something there. You know, like I mean I work really fast. The problem is like the clay that I use for this project is from here. I mean, it's made here in LA. So and you know, having kilns and stuff like that is usually not something that like you can find a printer everywhere, but like oh, you can find a printmaker, but it's usually like finding a place to fire
Fire.
clay. It becomes like a little bit more complicated.
It's interesting because our foundries and these places, they're actually open in Austria.
Oh yeah, but like
So,
people that are willing to risk their life for for like art, burning stuff, they're like you know. And they're like crazy. I mean, like people like Carl, they're like crazy. So that, you know, they don't. I don't think they believe in anything
you know.
besides their own. So like, yeah, I think making these things, or like I mean, mostly this is the first time I show the sculptures. Usually, a lot of them I make the installations, and they're very um, and in some way I like to keep the photos as a, like the record of these installations and the sculptures that I make in the studio, like. But because also when I make shows, a lot of the time people ask me like, hey, can you make something like this at the space, and that could, I feel, kind of, you know, give it away, or like so I decided to make sculptures that were like in the same kind of like thought process, but they were not having a lot of aesthetic similarities um, to the photos, right? Like the colors, or like the qualities and the vantage point. So like I wanted to like give almost like a second chapter to the idea.
Well, they're actually three-dimensional as well, which your work is, even if in the two-dimensional works, your works has a lot of three-dimensional feeling to it, the way how it's constructed. Maybe we go back to one of my favorite series, The American Type,
Yeah,
to maybe understand a bit more also how these works um, are being done. So you're constructing wood and wire in the studio, you photograph them analog, you print it, and then you collage the image back on the wall, and then you reconstruct the woods again, you rephotograph, and that process takes, you know, a couple of
weeks.
days or weeks
Yeah.
till the
Well,
final
you know, like
image
yeah, the
is
thing.
done. And
So like the thing, this is so. you can see the gap in some of the photos, right? But I make the thing that takes weeks is like I made these big plaster pieces, right? That they were like they're very heavy, and the scale
The
is
walls.
hard. Is they're 12 by 12 feet. So moving stuff
You're
around
talking
is
about the plaster walls in the
the
back?
plaster. Yeah, the plaster and everything is really big. So like a lot of these pieces are like 8 feet by 4 feet, right? So they're like super big, and they're like very fragile and heavy, right? So like when I set them up there, so I take enough photos of the first moment of, and then I go to school and I print them very, very large. So I make a couple of panels, and you can see the line going through where the panel is, right? It's photocopies. You can see that there's a little
Line here. Yeah.
mismatch in there, but then there's another piece in front, right? But like I mean, obviously the piece being influenced by a lot of the ideas of artists like Louis Baltz, or like and like kind of ripping off
Client.
a lot of the Klein compositions, but also there is a lot of like um, taking photos of the really complicated photographically subject matters, like making it very the darkest possible black and the lightest color of like clay that I can find, like exposing this thing to get details from the clay and getting details in the black. It's also like kind of like part of like the photographic nerd that want to make really weird kind of complicated
Yeah,
situations to
they're really
photograph.
complex. The more you look at them and the more you dive into these works. Also, that conceptually, so they're called American type because there is reference to Clement Greenberg's essay called American Type about American
Cool.
abstractionism.
Correct. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's something that is being part of the. I don't have the books here,
I'll
but I
actually
do.
show you because I have two works here. Let me see, how can I turn around the
Oh yeah,
camera?
I see them. I see the.
There. And I absolutely love them. I don't know, can you see them?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, I have
Yeah,
to,
you have the real things.
yeah.
Yeah, so they're like I'm usually printing very big. I mean, a lot of the works have been printed super big, like this. That is the scale that you have them is the same than this, like 44 by 54, right? And you can like I really love the scale to see because it's kind of like the maximum amount that like you can print it without have to like a lot of digital noises, so you can see
Mm.
the grains and the quality of the print, right? But this time I left the prints being um, like in the scale that the negative allows me to do. So like I really didn't want to lose any detail from the film. So when you see them close, they is like they are the sharpest image I have made because I just wasn't pushing the negative in any way. Um,
But I
so
like the
you,
new size as well.
yeah, no, I mean
And they
also
look
it's like
amazing framed.
yeah, I mean that is something that I
Do
mean
you have
it's
any of your paintings?
yeah, yeah. Actually, I'm working in two of them right now, and I want to show you the rest of the house then because
Because that's also a very amazing or interesting process,
um,
these paintings.
so I'm going to the cold, rainy LA.
Oof. We've been very lucky with the weather. It's been non-stop sunny.
I mean,
And
I've been lucky to that I don't have to like water the plants the last couple of days. But beside that, it's just not fun to take the dog for walks outside.
yeah.
So yeah, this is how what I've been using as a studio, right? Is my garage, and here are some of the paintings I've been working. I'm trying to finish
Oh, I
this.
love this one.
I've been trying to finish this too, and this is kind of like the place where I come on to be like, just like a lot more physical with the work, and it's
So
uh,
this is a photo transfer. So you paint the layers
yeah.
on
So
the canvas.
you can see here like a little bit of the removal of paper, and there is yeah. What I do is I grab photocopies like this, right? So this is another piece, and this like paper, right? But when you put glue on the face of the paper, you can put it onto the canvas and then face down and then squeegee the rest of the glue out. So when it dries, because this kind of ink is toner, so it's like plastic base, and it's like it's heat up on top of the surface of the material of the paper. The paper can come out very easy. So you can see like, so when you start like this image start completely white because of the paper, and then you start like removing, right? Sometimes you take too much and then all the paper falls over, and you can see like
Wow.
I mean, I scrape it every day and whenever I'm working, but like you can
But
see
you
that
also
like,
do it with a toothbrush, right? Sometimes.
yeah, you use only like a very soft materials, and I use a lot of sponges. I mean, sometimes when I'm taking a lot of the big chunks, I use this kind of like nail clean, or like this cleaners for like, so I just go like, right? But I use a lot of
Wow.
toothbrushes and big scraps, depend the scale too, because sometimes I work in like, some of them have been like 6 meters by like 3 meter, right? So like they're like huge. So I made one for a collector in Shanghai that was like, you know, the size of this wall. So I just have to like figure out the way to like
But you
make it
have
in.
to have assistance for
Yeah,
that.
for the project. I mean, I have one person that's been working with me for a long time, and that he's a great artist, and you know, he's kind of like was my undergrad student, and then I have him during the grad program. So like we've been collaborating and working together for a long time.
This one
So
is
that,
incredible.
yeah,
Can I have it in Vienna?
I'm really happy. Yes, I will. I will. Yeah, I think this one is gonna come out nice. I have still probably like another couple of days of work, but this is from the salt from the salt flats in Chile. So you can see the distance, and like a lot of these line drawings are very complicated. You know, they require a lot of patience and tape, but you can see that
So
there's,
these are, that's a sense of place. Or no,
yeah,
this is a new land,
Newland,
right?
yeah, yeah. You know, like I mean, this is but
And they're
you
all
know, some,
unique. There is no edition of these works, obviously.
yeah. I mean, because I have to. Like, they all have their own problems and their own. You know, sometimes I have used similar landscape, but like usually the shapes change and the hand gestures and all the problems, right? Like when I take the tape off, sometimes we make these like huge marks and mistakes, right? But that is the beauty of them too,
Yeah, I agree.
right? So like I really, and you can see how like the ink get removed and all the paper is the top, right? So I try to keep the print very
Yeah,
clean.
but this also makes it very lively, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
and
I think,
interesting.
I mean, I say like in the same way with like how I feel about the paintings rather than the photos right now. I think there's a lot of flaws in art that are worth keeping, right? Like there's a lot. I think the mentality of like listening to older artists talking about their work so flawlessly have created this like kind of like crazy expectations about how well you need to know about your art and how perfect the work needs to art. Almost like there is this like fake viewer and fake collector that we want to impress, and then still like, and I think there's gonna be problems, so might as well just embrace all these fucking problems, and then
Problems.
let the right person, somebody will engage with your own problems in your own way, and you know, in the same way that you find your best friends or your partners, you know, you just have to find for that person. They're gonna be one piece. Will find a person that's gonna be like, you know, I just don't want to, like, I just love that problem, right? That was a mistake, but it's like somebody will respond to those mistakes and somebody will respond to those problems.
Well, if
Um,
you think about a report from an auction house, they will have like all these mistakes being stated without knowing that these belong to the work.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, I would love
You know, a
that. I would love,
condition report, for example.
yeah, I would love that. I would love that. I would love that, that people would send me regularly problems reports from my art. Like if they, but because if they spend the most time they spend with the work, they would be just like every day finding another problem, and then every day you understand even more about your work. So I think I hope like more people would send you like
Also, we don't like auctions anyways. So
well, I never, I have never not even been part of one or like being in the places. I think they're funny. I think it's funny that people will do this like kind of ego contest with money and art around them. But it's I think it's so far because I've never been affected. I think they're hilarious. But
yeah, but thank God, no one's actually ever put a work into auction.
yeah, I mean, I'm
Everyone
lucky.
who bought a work wants to keep the works.
Yeah, I think I'm very lucky about that. Most people that have and with a lot of people that buy my work, I end up having a good relationship, and like actually a couple of days ago, like this week, two people they collect my work a lot. They have texted me about like how I'm doing and like what I'm working on now. Like a lot of people are very interested in photography, and in some way, like one of the reasons because a lot of the early work was mostly bought by other successful artists, like people that were like doing better than me. Like
That is always a good sign. That's the best sign. If other artists start collecting your works, that's a very good
yeah,
sign.
yeah. I got super lucky. Actually, the first time I did some art fair, I don't think I sold one piece to a collector, but there were like two galleries and two artists bought pieces, right? So like there was something that people that look a lot of art that my work
Wow.
resonate with them. So like I think it's that's why like I mean even when I was just in grad school, like I think having artists as an ally is like has been the best thing that happened in my career. Like collaborating with like a lot of people doing Escohigan, like doing a lot of residencies, having a lot of good friends in the art, and like being willing to like lend my skills to other people, like shooting videos, documenting their work, like just collaborating or help them to think through images. So there's like, I have a group of friends, like you have seen Ronnie Quevedo's work at the Whitney or Harold
Yeah.
Mendes' work at the like even after we met, we like usually meet up and like have like and go through each other's application and kind of and we just destroy each other. Like like it's like we just like talk shit about our applications and our ideas, and it was very like nice to have like these people at core, or like when I was kind of like kind of starting my career, that they were like really like I felt they speak a more contemporary art language than me, and have a lot of feedback
But I
from
think
them
that's
to like
important. That's also where you are. I mean, we also met at a fair, I remember,
yeah,
where
yeah,
your works have
2016.
blown me away, right away.
Oh, thank
Shall
you. Yeah, I
we
mean,
um shall we quickly talk about one video that I personally like a lot? I mean, I love all of your videos, but Maria TV is a very special one, like also
yeah,
Diamond Box. And later on, we'll put it on our Instagram stories, a few parts of
yeah,
it.
please do, because I think Maria TV is also the first time I made um like a movie with a budget, right? I mean, it was a very small budget now, all things considered, but I felt really like professional, right? I had like $8,000, and it was and I had a cast,
Wow, it looks so
I
much more than $8,000. It's such a
and
professional, such a genius movie. Also,
and
how you, sorry.
yeah, no, I mean, it's like I have a friend that's a really good cameraman, and I had Max, who's been my assistant since, and helping me with every project and kind of having his talent and input, right? And I have this 15 real mates in Seattle, like that I made them a couple of weeks before come and talk to me and do some interviews. So I got to know them pretty well, and it's and by the time that I was shooting the video, that which is like was 2 days in this warehouse. By the time I was teaching at Cornish, this small art school in Seattle, and they lent me their warehouse and the green screen. So I got super lucky with having a free space and having a lot of undergrads that helped me to like shoot it, right? But in general, I was like very
But
far
you
away with the
hired
film.
mates, right?
Yeah,
So
I
there were
hired
no
a
actors.
no, these persons were like what real mates looking for work, and I find them through like a small Facebook groups. There's a lot of groups for people that most of them they don't have papers, so they have to like they just arrive. Some people they've been living there for like 15 years, and they have like they've been making it work as a mates and like caregivers and stuff like that. So yeah, through a small Facebook groups, I start contact them, and then it's slow. I mean, it takes a long time because most people don't want to receive a message from a strange guy being like, "Hey, come over this warehouse and like let me ask you about your life," But like, you pay them well and like and treat them well, and I think slowly people earn your trust. But during that day, I was basically a cameraman. I wasn't the real director of the thing. I hired. Um, an acting coach that she was very great and very dynamic and very personable. So she kind of took over we talked about the ideas I had and all the way I wanted the movie to play out, and I built the stages through the weeks. So by the time they arrived, they were doing a lot of theater exercises in doing in these different stages and sets that I built. So so basically I just have to stay with the camera on the whole time and my eyes very open and my ears um, talking to every little thing that they say and just trying to pay attention to a lot of the details or the gestures that they do with their hands, the way that they move their eyes. So I was just kind of observing people and trying to, and you will see that in the video there is I use a telelens. So I wanted to capture details, but not be on the way
In
of them,
them.
kind of getting more personal, like and having their feelings exposed. So it's a very complicated piece to edit because there is so many details about their lives and things that are not, allow or like or untitled to touch. So to me, it was mostly about the relationship that women have with labor and expectations, and the way that media construct those expectations for the people. Like I mean, I think like it's having all my family working in the service industry and like part of the working class. I think was kind of like making a piece that would be like constantly thinking about my mom, my grandma, my aunt, thinking about so that way I felt like it was like a very good average between um like a contemporary art piece and a really personal and an emotional piece. So I'm
It's
very
very
happy.
intimidating and very, touching to definitely to watch. And yeah, like I said, really well done. So we'll show it later um, in our stories. And I think you have to go to class,
Yeah,
right?
I have to teach in 7 more minutes. So thank you, Lisa, very much for like being here.
Thank you, Rodrigo.
Bye
Have a
bye. Bye
great
bye.
day. Talk soon.
Talk soon.